Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Banfield, and welcome to Legal View. Many a candidate for public office has seen his own words come back from the distant past to haunt him. But Donald Trump, as you may have already heard, is not your normal, usual, everyday candidate. So now the political universe is abuzz with words that Donald Trump claims were not his, but those of a very helpful, very insightful Donald Trump spokesman who happened to sound very, very much like one Donald J. Trump. Words that Donald Trump say don't matter. They don't matter because they were spoken 25 years ago. The Washington Post got a hold of an audio recording from 1991. And on that audio recording, a reporter from People magazine interviewing a man who identified himself as a newly hired Trump press aide named John Miller said this.
What is your position? Well, I'm sort of handling PR because he gets so much of it. Yeah. And frankly, I can tell you off the record, if I can I get to know you and talk a little bit off the record, I can tell you that he didn't care if he got bad PR until he got his divorce finished. So when he got a lot of bad financial stuff, he liked it because he it was good because he could get his divorce finished. Once his divorce is finished, if you notice, since then, he's doing well financially, and he's doing well in every other way. The licensing was 5-0, was unanimous. And people are saying, how come all of a sudden he's doing so well? And then I guess Tuesday, about 2 weeks ago, did a story on that. So I've sort of been put in here to handle because I've never seen anybody get so many calls from the press. Where did you come from? I basically work for different firms. I work for a couple of different firms. And I'm somebody that knows, and I think somebody that he trusts and likes.
That reporter tells the Post that she hung up and thought, it's so weird that Donald Trump hired someone who sounds just like him. Here's how Donald Trump responded this morning on the Today Show.
It was not me on the phone, and it doesn't sound like me on the phone, I will tell you that, and it was not me on the phone. And when was this, 25 years ago?
In the early 90s, but
wow,
yeah.
You mean you're going so low as to talk about something that took place 25 years ago about whether or not I made a phone call? I guess you're saying under a presumed name.
Yes, under a presumed name.
Okay, the answer is no.
I want to bring in CNN politics reporter Jeremy Diamond, who's following this right now. The phone call's getting a lot of ink, and it's getting a lot of TV time. But is it the only incident like this?
Well, it's certainly not, Ashley. You know, we've went back and kind of looked to see where else has Donald Trump used this name of a spokesman, you know, John Barron, John Miller. And I found a few different instances, including New York Times articles from 1984 and 1985, in which, you know, there's a spokesman, John Barron, quoted as a vice president of the Trump organization. And you know, what's really interesting is this has kind of been an open secret, not only in New York media circles, especially the gossip pages of New York tabloids that have repeatedly used this quote-unquote spokesman, but also among Trump Organization executives, former Trump Organization executives who've told CNN that, in fact, you know, this was well known, that Donald Trump would, in fact, use these monikers to speak on his own behalf as a quote-unquote spokesman.
So he was obviously not happy with Matt and Savannah's line of questions, and actually said, so you're going to go so low as to talk about something that took place 25 years ago, whether or not I made a phone call. Let's get on to more current topics. But the problem is that Donald Trump just in the last week has focused very, very heavily on stuff from 25 years ago, from the 1990s, and he has been sort of trying to destroy Hillary Clinton over things in the 1990s.
That's right, yeah. This has been emerged as kind of one of the central attacks that Donald Trump is leveling against his likely general election opponent, Hillary Clinton, who is, you know, the front-runner for the Democratic nomination, of course. He has repeatedly brought up issues about Bill Clinton's past, you know, his alleged affairs, his alleged sexual abuses, and that's kind of a main line. Here's Donald Trump talking about Hillary Clinton as a quote-unquote enabler.
And Hillary was an enabler? And she treated these women horribly. Just remember this. And some of those women were destroyed not by him, but by the way that Hillary Clinton treated them after everything went down. So just remember that, folks.
So as I said, that's kind of one of the central lines of attacks that Donald Trump has now been leveling against Hillary Clinton as he ramps up for a general election after locking up the presumptive Republican nomination. So it seems like that's a sign of more things to come, but certainly Donald Trump does not want to be talking about things like the fact that he perhaps impersonated a spokesman in the 80s and 90s, but he will continue to focus on Hillary Clinton's, the issues emerging with her during that time. Ashley?
I think I get it. Okay. Jeremy Diamond, thank you for that. Can't wait to talk this one out with my panel. Jeffrey Lord is a Donald Trump supporter and a CNN political commentator. Errol Lewis is a CNN political commentator and political anchor for Time Warner Cable News. And Amanda Carpenter is a former communications aide to Ted Cruz, as well a CNN political commentator. Welcome to all three of you. Did not think we were going to be running tape from back in the 90s today, but Jeffrey Lord, you have the unenviable task of trying to put this one in perspective and make it sound good. It doesn't sound good. You've got to be honest. It doesn't sound good.
No, I don't agree with you at all, Ashley. Look, in my misspent youth, I was a press secretary to a congressman and a United States senator. I know how Washington works, and there's very few presidents, cabinet officers, senators, or congressmen who do not do some version of what Donald Trump is being accused of doing here. They talk to reporters on the sly and say, don't use my name, and then the reporter goes out there and says, a source, knowledgeable, da-da-da-da, and they never say.
But that source is being honest, though. Jeffrey, the difference being the source is being honest. The source is saying who I am when I tell you these things, don't use my name. Isn't there a difference between just blatantly lying? This isn't punking because nobody was told they're being punked.
Ashley, the source is not being identified in the newspaper or on television. The source is hiding his identity, and the reporter is going along.
The reporter is not being lied to.
The public is being lied to. This isn't just a quote-unquote anonymous source. This is a senator.
Are we really having this debate over semantics? Honestly, Jeffrey, I thought you were going to say something more like 25 years ago things are different now.
Well, let me get to that. And I will say that, Ashley. 4 years ago, when Mitt Romney ran for president, the Washington Post front paged a story that when he was in high school, he and along with a gang of kids had pinned some kid to the ground in a high school type situation and cut his hair. And years later, this kid turns out to be gay, i.e. Mitt Romney was a gay basher. This is what happens to Republican nominees for president, whether it's John McCain, whether it's Mitt Romney.
I'm certainly not going to apologize for anyone who does that, but there is a massive difference between someone in high school and a businessman well into his 30s or 40s openly lying publicly
Ashley,
to
if
a
you're
reporter.
out of a job in America, do you really think somebody cares about this?
I think people care if their president lies. Errol, do they care? Errol, do they care if somebody was telling lies to a reporter? Look, we're the bottom of the heap, but do they care if they're lying 25 years ago?
Well, I don't know whether people will care. I can tell you people should care that the candidate lied on camera today. I mean, what he did 25 years ago is what he did. It's as obvious. I mean, look, well, this is a legal show, so I'll use a little law school Latin, right? Res ipsa loquitur means the thing speaks for itself. It was obviously his voice 25 years ago caught on tape. 4 or 5 people who knew him at the time said it's obviously him. He subsequently, Donald Trump said to People magazine, he semi-apologized for having done it. So we know that that was him. He gets on television today and says it wasn't him. So that's not true. And everybody who reports on it should be clear to point that out, that what he said this morning was not true. Now, his supporters can say, throw a little fairy dust and sort of distort it and say, well, everybody does it, or it doesn't matter, and so forth and so on. But it does matter. And in whether or not people care about it, it is the job of the press to report it, which I think is what is going to happen over the next day or two.
Okay, so I'm going to move on from that.